Thank you. Thank you. You see, I really know who you want to hear from, and it is my extraordinary privilege today to get to introduce the governor. But I would be remiss if I didn't say to Chairman Carl McCall and to Carrie Stoller, our trustee, this is a super day for the State University of New York. And Jim and Marilyn, you have made us beyond happy. This is a moment of time that we will cherish as long as we serve the State University of New York. And I just want you all to know what a privilege it is to be a part of this day. Sam Stanley is over the moon. He is a fabulous president. I know that. You know that. And we are a great partnership. So as I reflect on today, which is really kind of a trifecta, I mean, the good news, for instance, Kevin Law, about Long Island receiving a leadership award for the Regional Economic Development Council, the passage of NYSUNY2020, and the gracious and generous gift of Jim and Marilyn Simons makes this truly a moment in time. But Governor, I'm a real observer of leadership and have watched people lead in every imaginable position. And I've come to this little homemade theory. It really absolutely requires vision. If you don't have a big idea of where to take something like the great state of New York, you're not going to be successful. And this governor has that vision. If you can't find a way to get everybody engaged, grassroots, all these regional economic development councils, you're not going to get the job done. And this governor figured that out. If you don't lay out a plan of very strategic actions, the ones that will grow from this gift and from NYSUNY 2020, we're just simply not going to be able to move the dial in New York, but we are going to move the dial in New York. And every leader has to pay attention to the pocketbook. It's got to grow. It's got to be an investment in our growth, and that I think the Simons understood, but clearly our governor understands. And then you have to travel around the state and the nation and the world and tirelessly tell the story that New York is open for business. I give you Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Stony Brook. Good morning. Oh, it's not even a good... Oh, look at that. $150 million gets your blood running, does it? Good morning to all of you. First to Chancellor Nancy Zimpher. You hear that energy, you hear that spirit, and that's leadership. Give a round of applause to the great Chancellor. SUNY has a new energy all across the state. There's a revitalization going on, and Nancy really embodies it. And her leadership has made such a difference, really infused all throughout the system. I can't thank her enough. SUNY also has a great chairperson of the board, Carl McCall. It's a pleasure to be with you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Senator Zeldin, Assemblyman Steve Engelbright, colleagues of mine, and all the colleagues from the New York State Legislature. It's a pleasure to be with you, and they really did a fantastic job this year. Let's give them a round of applause. And to Jim and Marilyn, $150 million gift. Comes at a good time. I was doing my list for Santa, and I was wondering, what kind of gift would I want? I was thinking socks, actually. But it's not a gift. And you listen to Jim, you listen to Marilyn. It wasn't a gift, and Jim gave you part of the backstory, but Jim is not in the gift business. He is in the investment business, and he places his money in places that are going to reap dividends. That's what he does. That's what he does extraordinarily well for many, many years. And he is investing in Stony Brook. And before he placed his investment, as he said here, he wanted to make sure there was a financial plan that made Stony Brook viable and that Stony Brook was going to reap dividends. And when we first started to talk, his entire discussion was about the non-sustainability of the SUNY system and the Stony Brook system and how it was deteriorating. And the SUNY system all across the state. Frankly, he was talking about his disenchantment with dealing with the state officials and the state government. By the way, I have, Jim, no press conference planned for 2 days. I want you to know. So that was a central point that he was making. How is the SUNY system going to work? And how is Stony Brook going to work? And how are the state's finances going to work? And what were we going to do about tuition? And how are they going to have the economic resources to compete? He said, and if that is in place, and if that system comes to be, then I will make my investment. And that's exactly what the state legislature did this past year, and that's what the SUNY system did. We have a new financial plan, that's SUNY2020. A new financial plan, a new tuition plan that will have the financial security and success of not just Stony Brook, but all the SUNY schools system-wide. And then Jim said, well, now I'll make my investment. Having said that, it was smart, it was wise, but it was also incredibly, incredibly generous. And we thank you, Jim and Marilyn, from the bottom of our heart for your generosity. Jim and Marilyn Simons, let's give them a round of applause. Let me say this, as Nancy said, everything has been said, just not everyone has said it. Usually these circumstances about love or money, today is no exception, and today is not about love. So I'm really here to sign the agreement so we can get underway. Just let me say this, when we started 1 year ago, and I took over as governor working in partnership with my colleagues in the legislature, we had one focus, which was bringing the economy back to New York and turning the economy around and generating jobs. Why? Because on the statewide level, that's the best thing you can do. If the private sector economy is running, and if this state is generating jobs, then all is going to work out. The private sector economy is the engine that pulls the train. And if people have jobs and people have opportunity, the community is working. If you have a private sector economy, you have a tax base that's flourishing, we can invest, we can do good things, we can build public institutions all across the state. But we had to focus on turning around the economy. And that is a big job in New York. By the way, it's a big job all across the country. But it's particularly tough in New York because we had a reputation as being anti-business. And it wasn't just a perception issue. It was a reality issue. And we've been working all year long to turn around that reality, to then turn around the perception and say to businesses, take a second look at New York. You want to locate here. You want to grow here. This is a place for you and your business long term. And that's what we did in the first legislative session. Make the government work, get your financial house in order. Balance the budget. Do it on time, do it like grown-ups, do it responsibly, and send that signal. Get taxes under control. Lee is exactly right. The property tax cap in Long Island, Nassau and Suffolk. Some of the highest property taxes in the nation are in New York. People are taking a second mortgage to pay their property taxes. And people are leaving because of property taxes. And you had exponential growth year after year after year, 7%, 8%, 9%. We passed a property tax cap that's at 2% unless 60% of the people override. But the overall message was we're changing the reality of New York and making it business friendly. We did that to an exponential degree last week, when the legislature came back in what was called an extraordinary session. Extraordinary session is when the legislature comes back outside of the normal session. Normally the legislature sits from January to June. And they came back last week. It was an extraordinary session, but extraordinary in every way. Extraordinary circumstances, extraordinary times, and there was an extraordinary product. The senator is right. The Assemblyman is right. The New York State Legislature did what they couldn't do in Washington. They put the politics aside, they stopped the arguing, they stopped the finger pointing, and they came together for the good of the people of this state. They passed the most aggressive jobs development program passed in modern political history. They passed a tax reform plan that is actually rolling back taxes on small business with the MTA tax reform, and the middle class is going to pay the lowest tax rate in 58 years, believe it or not. That's how you stimulate the economy. Everyone agrees if you do a tax cut to the middle class who will actually spend the money, you're going to see that investment reap dividends in the private sector economy. So we've been doing what we need to do on the state level. We also understand that for the economy to really take off, there is no one state economy. This is not a postage stamp size state. This is not a vanilla state, as they say. Our strength is our diversity. And our economy works in regional economies. There's the Western New York economy, which is different than the North Country, the Adirondack economy, which is different than Central New York, which is different than Long Island. And if you want to grow the Long Island economy, you have to do it from Long Island. And there are a different set of particular assets and liabilities that Long Island has, and you have to come up with a plan that develops that economy from a bottom-up basis. And we started a competition called Regional Economic Councils, where we said to regions across the state, you come up with a plan. If it makes sense, the state will invest in it. And Long Island came together in a way I hadn't seen it, frankly, in my lifetime. And they came together and they came up with an economic plan, and everybody cooperated and everybody participated, and the state awarded Long Island $100 million last week for economic development. And the catalyst for all these regional economies, I believe, is going to be the SUNY system. Why? Because if you look at any region in the country where the economy is coming back, I don't care if it's the Research Triangle or Silicon Valley, it's always linked to higher ed. It's always linked. The higher ed system is always the incubator. It's always transferring work product to the commercial sector. And we have a great asset in this state, in our SUNY system. Jim is right. We haven't developed it. We haven't exploited it. We haven't given it the attention that it deserves in recent history, but it is a great, great, beautiful asset. So in all these regions, the SUNY system is the heart of the region and the heart of the economic rebirth. And here on Long Island, Stony Brook says that in volumes. Stony Brook is not just a great academic institution, but it is also a great economic generator for Long Island. The agreement we make today is great for the school, it's great for the students, it's great for academia, it's great for all of Long Island, because you're going to see this economy work, and Stony Brook is going to be a major engine in that economic resurgence, and I can't tell you how proud I am to be part of it. If I had told you a year ago, because now we're getting down to the end of the year and I'm a little reflective, it's the end of my first year, my rookie year, where my colleagues in the legislature were very kind in showing me the ropes, sometimes at great expense to me. But we're coming into the holiday season, and it is a time of reflection. If I had said to you a year ago that the New York State Legislature was going to be one of the premier legislatures in the nation in putting aside politics and actually acting, if I had told you all of Long Island was going to come together and get past the geographic divides and the political divides, and they were all going to cooperate on one plan for the good of Long Island and not act in any parochial way. If I was to tell you that there was going to be a great family, the Simons family, who was going to step up and give a $150 million investment to Stony Brook out of the pure generosity and goodwill of their heart. If I had told you all of those things, you'd be a little dubious, a little incredulous. They all came true. And you know what else? The best is yet to be. I really believe that. Thank you, and God bless you. Okay, it's getting close. Did you just sign your name with the governor, Jim? Everything is hard with the bureaucracy. Congratulations.